A is apologize. Like, apologize for what? What did I do wrong? Probably the way you've approached this in the past.
Pressure you've provided.
Exactly. Yes. Either, by what you've said, what you've done, the resentment you may have built up from not seeing the change after so many conversations about it. There's probably something to apologize for.
Yeah.
Say, even if it's just, hey, I've not handled this the best way that I could.
Yeah.
And, that's not saying I'm a bad person. That's not saying I did all these things wrong. It's just, hey, I regret the fact that in the past, I've banged my head against the wall trying to solve this problem in a way that wasn't going to work. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast. This is Charles. Today, Dan and I are diving into chapters 14 and 15 of The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. These chapters hit hard on one of the toughest truths in relationships. You can't make anyone change. We'll talk about why pressure backfires, why people only change when they're ready, and how to move from rescuing and controlling to actually influencing in a healthy way. If you've ever felt stuck watching someone you love repeat the same patterns, or if you've been on the other side of that pressure, this one will land for you. Check out mindfullymasculine.com for all our episodes and anything else we feel like sharing. Enjoy.
Hey, Charles. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
A little exhausted. It's been a busy couple of days. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that Taylor Swift has announced her new album.
Oh, you did need to tell me. Okay. And so you've been busy listening to it?
Oh,
is it the date?
No. It's only been announced. It's not released until October 3rd.
And it's causing you sleepless nights.
It's available for pre-order, but
okay.
A lot of the Swiftie talk. My Instagram feed is just full of all Taylor Swift accounts and all of the Easter eggs and conspiracy theories and everything, trying to figure out, what it's going to be about, who's going to be producing the tracks. There's a lot going on. And last night she was on the Kelsey brothers. Travis and Jason have a podcast.
Okay.
And she was the special guest. I don't think she's ever done any podcast before. So this was the first time. And she was on there to announce the name of the album, the track list, when it was going to be released. And I've seen quite a few women comment online where she's like, the most amazing, unbelievable thing Taylor Swift has ever accomplished is getting me to listen to a podcast hosted by two men. And to those Swifties who feel that way, I would like to say, we also have a podcast hosted by two men. We will talk about football far less than the Kelsey brothers will.
We'll talk about emotions and feelings a whole lot more.
That's true. They've only had Taylor Swift on their podcast one more time than we've had her on ours.
Good point. Okay, so it's 1-0. All right.
Right. And so, I'm not saying I love Taylor Swift as much as her boyfriend Travis does. Obviously, that would be insanity.
Would it?
Yes. But I could make an argument I love her as much as Jason Kelsey does. So I will be sharing this clip on social media, trying to encourage some of my fellow Swifties to listen into our podcast. But yeah, it's The Life of a Showgirl will be released on October 3rd. Now, I'm not like a collector Swiftie. I'm not going to order, all 4 versions of the vinyl and all 4 versions of the CD. And I think she's even releasing a cassette of her album.
Oh, good for her. I like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I will.
Old school.
I will just be listening on my YouTube Music premium subscription that I have.
But I'll be looking for the 8-track. So
I don't think she's making one of those, but
she lost me.
Yeah.
There it is.
Maybe
doesn't take much for me though.
Maybe I could reach out to her, but I was remembering the last time she released an album, The Tortured Poets Department. It just happened to coincide with that weekend I went up to Omaha to eat some steak and go to their amazing zoo. And just walking around a brand new city you've never been to, listening to some new music that you're excited about, that was a good experience. I had a lot of fun doing that.
So question for you, when you hear those songs again now, does it bring you back exactly where you are in the zoo at the time?
Yeah. The zoo or
crazy,
street I was walking. Yeah.
Well, the music does.
I get that. Yeah. I get that a lot too when, I re-listen to a lot of my favorite audiobooks over and over.
Yeah.
Like the Jack Reacher series. That's really the only fiction that I listen to regularly whenever and that guy churns out a new book, every year. And I'll go back and start the series over, every 4 or 5 years or so and listen to the audiobooks again. And it's like the images that pop into your head of like oh, I remember, driving to Jacksonville, listening to this chapter of the book, and I remember what car I was in. Sometimes I even remember what I was wearing. It's just that the way those senses come together to
Yeah.
rebuild
All the connections
Yeah,
in the neural
I-
network,
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
I get that with music too, obviously. Probably more with music, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. I don't have any plans to be anywhere on October 3rd when it comes out, but yeah, maybe some sort of a work trip or a conference or convention will pop up where I'll be able to listen to it in a novel place. But anyway, yeah, so I'm unabashedly excited about more music from my
Hey,
favorite.
always something
my
to look forward
artist.
to. I like that.
Absolutely. All right, let me have a sip of coffee and then we'll start talking about today's episode. How dare you? All right. Charles, how do you like your coffee? Well, we actually talked about this way back when we first started the podcast. I had decided that I wanted to change two big things for, gosh, 2022, I guess it was.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn to like tomatoes and I wanted to learn to like drinking my coffee black. Tomatoes have been harder.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's less seeds in coffee. I get it.
that's true. There are less seeds.
Yeah.
And I have found that you can find decent, cheap coffee easier than you can find decent, cheap tomatoes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the restaurants, it's hard to figure out the quality of the tomatoes. I usually in the supermarkets, if you get you get little flavor bombs like the cherry tomatoes, and if you get sometimes the organic kind and the redder they are, typically the more flavor they're going to have
Yeah.
in them. So
I do. There was a while where I was at either a Whole Foods or a Fresh Market or something like that, and they had the little vines of.
that's the ones I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got those, and then I would when I was making like my eggs and sausage in the morning,
Yep.
I would roast like 3 or 4 of them.
That's nice. Yeah.
And yeah, when they got roasted to the point where they started to split, that was a nice little enhancement to my breakfast. But yeah, I wish I could develop more. I'm pretty much at the point now where I will not ask someone to leave tomatoes off of a taco or a salad.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and tacos especially, or burritos, or I'll just go ahead and eat the diced tomatoes and it's fine. Where 5 years ago I wouldn't. There's no way. I would tell as they had
All right.
it off. But now it's just like, okay, this doesn't taste so bad that I'm gonna either inconvenience myself by removing it from the app that I'm ordering from or telling somebody to leave it off. But yes, I like my coffee black. How do you like yours? Black as well?
Black, but I've been adding a little bit I like it stronger and adding a little bit of almond milk to it just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. So yeah, nothing crazy, but I appreciate going out with friends or whatever, and they'll let me have sips of their crazy concoctions and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, it's just going to be black.
Now, I don't get black coffee at Starbucks anymore because I find that their brewed coffee always tastes burnt to me. So Starbucks, I only will get Americanos.
Yeah.
Because those just taste milder to me for whatever reason.
Yeah, me too.
Than their brewed coffees do.
Yeah.
So, all right, good talk. We'll see how much of it stays in. All right, so we got a couple chapters here, 14 and 15, about working on other people. When you want, dare I say, need other people to change. Mel Robbins, in her book, The Let Them Theory, talks about how to deal with that situation. I was gonna say how to change other people, but she doesn't really, I wouldn't say she attacks it from here's how you change other people. It's more of here's how you adjust and deal with the situation when you feel like somebody needs to change.
Yeah.
Chapter 14, the key message of chapter 14 is people are only going to change when they feel like changing themselves. And I would say if then, because there've been a ton of ways in my life, even recently, where it's like, I really want to change this. Like, I really do want to change it. I mean it. I try to set up a process and a system, and it's still really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on podcasts before. When you look at how hard it is to change yourself, how are you going to apply that to somebody outside of yourself? You can't.
It's really difficult for even yourself. For me, it's kind of like we talked about motivation this morning, right? Where it's like a blip on the radar. It's it's an urge, a spike.
Yeah.
Motivation is a spike, and that's the problem. Is that, and I think she mentions it in one of the chapters, is if you're not feeling enough pain from doing what you're doing, you're not gonna change.
Yeah.
Or if your drive isn't strong enough, consistent enough, to want to stop doing what you're doing, you're not going to do it. So like I've said, yeah, I want to change. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then it's just like, well, it's not strong enough or it doesn't last long enough for you to actually do what's uncomfortable to make those changes.
Yeah, and so we'll get back to getting other people to change first, but one of the thoughts I had when I was listening to this chapter this morning on the drive over was, in my case, the times that I've been able to pull off significant long-term change, it's been one of two things, ideally a combination of the two. One, you get to that level of just either you could call it disgust or fatigue or whatever, where you're just like, I can't live this way anymore. I just can't do it.
The pain is there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or even if it's not pain, like when I was walking around 40 pounds bigger, I wasn't in any kind of pain compared to where I am now. It
That's
was
what you're
just,
saying. Yeah.
it was just like, this is annoying. Like,
Okay.
getting out of breath by putting my socks on, like that's something that was happening to me every day. Like bending over, having your belly fat push up into your lungs where it's like, okay, I've got to hold my breath while I put my socks on. It's like, that wasn't a painful experience, but it just ground me down day after day. And then also the way I looked in the mirror, it's like a whole bunch of other things that I was exposed to all the time. At one point I finally said, that's it. I've had enough of this. I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. But it was also, I did have fairly vivid memories of in high school and college, me and my friends would like literally stay up all night playing full court basketball, just running back and forth. It's like, so I know what it's like to have the capacity to do that. And I remembered what it was like. And so, yeah, I couldn't gaslight myself into believing, oh, well, you're 35 years old. It's natural for you not to be able to put your socks on with
Okay.
breath.
Got it.
But yeah, also the fact that, okay, I'm in this, weird transition period of going from a married guy to being a single guy. It's like this.
That'll wake you up on so many fronts.
Yeah, it's also like,
But just big change.
yeah, here's a way I can feel better about myself, even though I'm going through this, breakup of my marriage.
So I think that's an important part too, is probably you started to feel really good about yourself, or at least better about yourself when you started to do the things that were uncomfortable.
So the other part, the part two that I find that goes along with it is the social connection aspect of it. Like, and I think that's kind of a hack or a cheat code that I don't hear talked about that much, where if there's something you want to change, whether it's, how much you consume alcohol or getting into therapy or losing weight or giving up smoking, if you just put yourself into a group of people that the sole reason that they get together and socialize is because they're all trying to overcome the thing that you want to overcome.
Ooh, that's powerful.
It's extremely powerful. And I've found that through the men's group that I go to. It's like, we're all there to work on pretty much the same thing and talk about how working on it, we get together once a week and talk about how working on it for the last 7 days has gone. It's so much easier when you've got that. And I don't know exactly how that, with obviously alcohol, codependence, it's like, okay, there are groups specifically made for overcoming those challenges. With trying to drop some weight or get better at managing your finances, or there are other areas where it's a little harder to see exactly organically how you can find that tribe of people. But that, yeah, I really do say that if you can both get to the point where you're disgusted and plug yourself into a group of people that are trying to accomplish the same thing you are, and just spend as much time around them as you possibly can.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to make it so much easier.
Yeah, I can just imagine the amount of ideas that come from being in that group, just from casual conversations even.
Yeah.
In terms of how I'm handling it, how I'm thinking about this. I struggled and this is the way I solved it, right? And just that the amount of additional knowledge to get that from somebody firsthand is.
Yeah. And it does a lot for feelings of, loneliness and isolation too. The one of the phrases that people in recovery use a lot is the idea of hearing your story coming out of somebody else's mouth, and how enriching that is and how inspiring that is. Like, oh, this guy's going through the same thing I'm going through. And he's figured out a way to deal with it for the last week, so maybe I can too.
Yeah.
So that's those are two. So we'll get back to, how do you get somebody else to do that? Well, you kind of don't. And, they've either got to decide, okay, I'm sick and tired of living this way, or I'm going to plug myself into a group of people that are accomplishing the thing that I want to accomplish, or like I said, ideally both of those things.
Right.
And really all you can do is set up the environment for them in non-invasive ways that make it as easy as possible for them to come to those conclusions.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you want to get into this
Yeah,
point, but
absolutely.
she also talks about modeling the behavior that you want to see in that other person. So in a way, you are kind of doing what you just said, which is you're not creating a group, but you
Right.
are creating at least
Yeah.
one other person
Yeah.
in their life that is not necessarily going through what they're going through, but is modeling the change that you want to see in that other person. So at least it is, and hopefully you're doing it in a way where you're not making them feel bad about not being where you are,
Sure.
but you're modeling it and you're not necessarily forcing it down their throat. You're showing them how to do it and then letting them figure out how to get from where they are to a place where you are.
Yeah, that's one of the thoughts I had this morning when I was listening to this chapter, that, when you've got anybody in your life, whether it's a friend, a kid, a partner, that you think there's something big that they need to change, that's going to be an opportunity for either some pretty nasty conflict, or it's going to be an opportunity for some pretty high quality connection. And that connection can come from the empathy of, I guess, one of two things. Either they're struggling with something that I have not yet done myself, so it's easy for me to understand how difficult it must be for them because I haven't done it either. Or it's going to be they're struggling with something that I struggled through and figured out how to get to the other side of. So I still know how hard it is because I've had to do it myself.
Yeah.
And so I think either one of those ways, I mean, we'll take, quitting smoking, for example. It's either, you think they need to quit smoking, but you're still smoking. And then it's like, okay, well, I haven't stopped this myself. So I know, if I think it's important for them to stop, but I'm still doing it, well then, yeah, clearly it's hard to do. Otherwise I would have stopped doing it myself.
Sure.
And if you did stop doing it and you're waiting for them to stop and hoping that they stop, and it's like, okay, well, even if you thought that it was easy for you, you still do have to kind of acknowledge I had either a process or an experience that changed my thinking on it. Even if it happened in a moment, you went from the identity of I'm a smoker to the identity of I am no longer a smoker.
And in that context, you were probably in a situation where somebody else wasn't pressuring you and forced you to do it. Right. Most likely.
Most likely.
And even if they were, how did you feel in that environment? Probably not good.
Yeah.
So
either they came down so hard on you that you had no choice but to comply,
right,
which feels bad every time.
And Mel acknowledges that's where she came from, where she was basically like forcing her kids to basically, or other people to do these changes, and she acknowledges that she raised her children in a way that kind of helped bring about more anxiety, which she had herself.
Yeah.
Instead of really just allowing them, giving them the support around them dealing with the consequences of feeling anxious. So she tried to solve their anxiety. For example, she was talking about how her daughter would come and try to sleep with them. When she was really young.
Yeah.
And her husband was livid with her because she allowed her to do it for like 6 months in a row. And all it did was her daughter was scared of sleeping in her own bed. She tried to sleep with the parents, and Mel facilitated that instead of letting the daughter figure out how to be okay sleeping in her own bed.
Right.
And because of that, she admits she did it the wrong way. She basically, and then later in life, the daughter didn't have the tools to deal with anxiety in other situations.
Yeah. She was teaching her daughter, yes, you're right to be scared to be in your own bed.
Right.
Because I'm giving you this way out. And obviously, if you didn't need this way out, I wouldn't be providing it.
And you didn't figure out your own way out.
Yeah, I was reminded for that section thinking about, when my ex-wife and I got our dog, and it was like, you get an 8 or 10 week old puppy and you try to trait crane them so that they sleep in their crate overnight. It was just nonstop crying and whining. But, we were both on the same page of, okay, do we want a week of rough nights, or do we want 15 years of a dog that doesn't know how to behave?
It's good you had that insight to really, to look at it that way.
We were both
be able to deal with,
and we were both on board with it. Whereas, like, we are not going to. We're gonna just.
And how'd that work out?
It was Holly was an amazing dog because she listened to my ex and I. We took her through training. When it comes to pets, especially dogs, I believe a trained obedient dog is a happy dog because they're not freaking out all the time because they don't understand where they are. Like an untrained dog thinks it's in a pack with no leader. Yes. So and same with kids, it's not, they need to understand that there are calm, rational minds in control of the situation. And by indulging them with, I'm scared to sleep in my own bed, that's not the message you're sending.
If they don't have the tools to figure out how to handle it.
Right.
Right. So, or at least they need to develop those. And
Right.
that's the mission there. Right.
Yeah. And that's what, one of the things I thought about when I was listening to this was, the impulse that we have to control other people's behavior and modify other people's behavior. A lot of times that comes from, a lack of security on our own part, where we are not willing to take on the reality of, okay, I either need to be okay with tolerating other people's behavior, or I need to remove myself from the situation. And that's when it's very important and very difficult to be able to set those limits of, okay, I need to be really honest with myself about what's a deal breaker and what's not a deal breaker. Because if it's my hubby's carrying around some visceral fat that I know is going to lead to problems 20 years down the line, and I wish he was in a little bit better shape, or my husband gets drunk too much and gets verbally abusive with me. I mean, you got to decide, okay, which of these is tolerable? Which of these can I say, all right, I'll let him handle himself. And which one is I'm going to let me get my ass out of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, when it's physical threat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer in that case,
right,
but it's hard, most of the time it's not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white.
Right. So for example, if, your child grows up and becomes an adult and then is in debt and has lots of credit card debt, and you see your parent basically give them big sums of money to kind of pay off that credit card debt.
What happens next? We all see.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes back to the previous chapters that she talks about is we are all really children as adults. We are really just children in terms of our emotions. As the loving parent, a lot of us don't have the ability to handle our own discomfort and emotions that it's going to require to say, no, I'm not going to give you that money to bail yourself out of this debt. And you need to, she talks about having the ability to say, okay, look, you got to put some conditions down and go, look, you know what, I'll loan you this money, but it's got to be paid back in such a fashion, or you need to do X, Y, and Z type of thing in order to really start to, I guess, change yourself. If you're not willing to do that and feel uncomfortable when you enforce those boundaries, that's where I think a lot of us give in and say, all right, well, the screaming kid, I can't deal with the screaming kid in the grocery store or the toy store. Yeah. I'm just going to buy that food or that toy for them because I can't handle it.
Right. And I've seen the best parents that I've been exposed to, friends, parents of friends, it's always been the ones that are like, basically, I am an unlimited source of conversations and hugs, but other than that, I'm not giving you anything else unless I decide that it's the right thing to do for you. Whether that's money, a car, co-signing a loan, it's like, I'll evaluate those on a case-by-case basis, but the only thing you can absolutely count on me for is hugs and conversations. And yeah, so much of the time I've seen people struggling with negative behaviors or addictions, and it's like, right before they're going to hit rock bottom, a parent throws a mattress or a trampoline underneath them, when in reality, the only thing that would have slammed into the ground and broken was the bad behaviors. It wasn't going to be the person.
That's good. I like that.
But then you toss that mattress. Yeah, it's like, okay, live to fight, spend, drink, shoot up, whatever it is, another day. And with most people, your survival instinct will kick in and you'll take care of yourself when it's clear to you that that's your only choice. But when we enable people and we don't let them ever get to that point, then we're stealing that survival instinct from them. We're not letting them experience that. And they could be turning themselves around in amazing ways. And we're too uncomfortable seeing them do the hardest part of it that we don't let them do it.
I think the deceptive part here is looking at somebody who we really want to change something that will benefit their health or their life in some way, and realizing that if we do anything in terms of putting pressure on them, trying to force them to change, it really is a reflection of ourselves that we need to change. They're change the things about us that we need to change so that we can handle them struggling and feeling the consequences of their decisions, and of not changing.
I've watched so many reality shows, documentaries about addiction and how people are able to get out of it, where, there'll be a situation where the family is just like, this is, I especially resonate when the dad does this. Like, I would do anything to help him or her. I would do anything to get him off this stuff. I'd do anything to blah, blah, blah. And then, the counselor or the doctor will be like, okay, well, what you need to do is get as healthy as you can for yourself, get into a program like Al-Anon where you understand what it's like to live with somebody who's got an addiction, get into Codependence Anonymous, get into a group like that. And it's like, so many of these guys are like, I'd walk over broken glass for my little girl. It's like, okay, well, get in therapy. Oh, hold on. It's like, oh my, like, this expert is telling you the one thing that you could do that would actually help. And you're like, I don't think that'll actually work. So I'm just going to not do it. I'm going to keep doing it my ways.
Yeah. The irony though, right, is just like, oh, I can't do this little change. And yet you expect this other person to do this monumental change.
But the people that have something going on that you think is so important that they need to change, the most valuable thing you can give them is the version of your presence where you're at your own healthiest, best.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so whatever it is that you've got going on, even if it's, something completely unrelated to the issue that they need to change, but it's very easy when it's like, okay, well, I want them to be in better shape, so I need to be in better shape. I want them to be in therapy, so I should be in therapy. Sometimes it's not one-to-one like that, but you've got something, the fact that you're spending all this time around somebody that has a problem so big that you think it needs to change.
Yeah.
That does shine a light on yourself. Like, okay, I've got some work to do. There's no way anybody who's complaining about my partner needs to change this, anybody vocalizing that complaint to themselves or others, they're not at 100 out of a 100 when it comes to their own mental health. There's just no way, because none of us are, but any of us who might be close to that 100, we're not spending our time complaining about other people needing to change.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think if you really love that person, use some of that energy, that anxiety you have of them doing what they're doing, use that as some fuel and fire to do the thing that's difficult for you.
Right.
That could be one of your whys.
Yeah, exactly.
Of why you are going to do that change. And that might keep you going. It might be a little bit more than that spike of that motivation, right? It's
right.
Day in and day out, you're seeing this person struggle. That's a lot of spikes of motivation of why you should go out and become that person that you want that other person to be.
Sometimes focusing on other people's problems is a way you could distract yourself from not doing the work that you need to do in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of ask yourself, is there a chance I might be doing some of that? Is there something big that I wish I was working on, but it feels too hard, so it's easier for me to tell them about what they need to fix?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know I've been in that position before. So, okay, let's get into what does work. The ABC of influence: accept their current state, their timeline, their readiness level, their autonomy, be supportive without pressure, available without pushing, patient with the process, and consistent in your own actions. Create a safe space for change, opportunities for growth, positive environment, and natural motivation. So there's a couple ABCs in here. The first one is the ABC of influence. The next one is the ABC loop of here's how you can actually influence them in a positive way. A is apologize. Like, apologize for what? What did I do wrong? Probably the way you've approached this in the past.
Pressure you've provided.
Exactly. Yes. Either, by what you've said, what you've done, the resentment you may have built up from not seeing the change after so many conversations about it. There's probably something to apologize for.
Yeah.
Say, even if it's just, hey, I've not handled this the best way that I could.
Yeah.
And, that's not saying I'm a bad person. That's not saying I did all these things wrong. It's just, hey, I regret the fact that in the past, I've banged my head against the wall trying to solve this problem in a way that wasn't going to work. Sorry about that. Way to start any important conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
hey, Dan, first let me apologize.
Yeah, because you're being vulnerable. You're putting
Yeah.
yourself out there first. Yeah.
So that's,
Mhm.
I agree with her on that technique. Then second one is back off and observe their behavior. So apologize to them, say what you've done wrong,
And then
say
mean what you said by backing off.
absolutely,
Right. If you don't back
exactly.
off, then it's kind of like, well, you just apologize.
Yeah, what kind of apology? Sorry
What
for
do you,
all,
what do you mean no
sorry,
pressure?
sorry for all the pressure that I've been putting you under to change this, and the pressure will resume tomorrow morning. No, that's not going to be helpful
Yeah.
in accomplishing the goal whatsoever. So back off and observe. And she said sometimes, I think she said minimum of 6 months of backing off and observing, because because they're not going to believe it at first, even if they're not openly saying, I don't believe you're sorry, I don't believe you're going to back off.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to show them over an extended period of time, like, no, I'm serious about changing the way that I behave about
Yeah.
this issue.
I mean, that's the thing, right? If you've been behaving this way for years, words don't mean nearly as much as actions. And you may have pre-programmed their mind and their assumptions to feel and to look at you as somebody who provides pressure in this area. And I know actually it happened with my sister is for many years, I would pressure her to try to change her, like the way she handles finances. And, recently I've backed off, or in the last few years, or whatever, I've definitely backed off. But even this casual conversations now, she's very reluctant to talk to me about financial stuff. And she's said different phrases and words that have led me believe that she still thinks that
You're
I'm
judgment.
going to be judgmental about it. And I've tried to reassure her, I have reassured her that that's not the case and that this is different. But what I've not done, I've never done like a formal apology. So I'm going to do that the next time I talk to her.
All right, let me know how
That's a piece that I didn't learn about until this book.
yeah.
Ironically, she's the one who told me about this book.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
That's her way of manipulating, controlling me
Like,
to try to get me to apologize.
yeah.
Son of
Yeah, there's this great book called, you might want to pay particular attention to chapter 14.
yeah, Megan.
Yeah, I definitely, I like to think I've mellowed out with, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell by listening to the show, but I've mellowed out with how judgmental I am with people. Certainly a lot from college, young adult years. And, yeah, I am sure that, even when we talk to our friend Rob, my friend from college, your friend, since I provided that link to you, and our friend of the show, he's been on a few times. Like, I'm sure that there are probably some topics that we get into when he and I are discussing things, when he is probably prepared for judgmental 22-year-old Charles to rear his head about things. And that could be a bit of a bummer. And yeah, but I find with most people, when you go from, when you just live life and you have successes and failures and you get chewed up and spit out a little bit, most people tend to get less judgmental with age. And then, I mean, I guess some generations, then you get really old and you get super judgmental again. So hopefully I can avoid that one. But yeah, so observe the behavior, and really that's good for both you and them, because if the backing off part, not only does it increases the chances that they'll actually change the thing you want them to change, but the act of backing off is also good for you, because you don't feel like so much of your identity is tied up in whether or not they choose to do this thing that you've told them is important to you.
Or your feelings
Right.
are no longer tied to that as much either, right? I feel if you're investing time and energy in trying to control something and control something you can't control, and it's not giving you the results that you want, yeah, that's not great for your emotional state.
The last one is celebrate progress while modeling change. And celebrating the little victories is something we learned quite a bit from with Tiny Habits as well. And I would just say, you may have an impulse, I especially think about this because of my own experience, where with kids, when you're trying to, I think some parents can go a little over the top with celebrating the little victories to the point where it feels weird and cringy and disingenuous. And I think that could probably be the case with partners and friends as well, where, just a very for me, what would work the best is a very low key approach. Like, hey, I noticed that you've been doing some work in this area and just want to let you know I've noticed. Good for you. The D and E is what we've alluded to a little bit already, which is decide if this is a deal breaker. Is this behavior truly unacceptable? Can you accept them as they are? What are your true non-negotiables? And I've counseled and advised friends in situations where it's like, I'm not happy with my partner in my relationship. It's like, okay, well, what's the plan? You gonna get happy, or are you going to stop complaining? Because those are the only two things that are really in your power to do. Option 3 of I want to snap my fingers and have them change all the things I don't like. Well, okay, you can want that if you want to, but if it was going to happen, it would have already happened. So that's not on the table. So are you going to develop within yourself a way to say, I am truly and honestly okay with this the way that it is? Or are you going to remove yourself from the situation? Because in many cases, those are the only two choices that you have. Learn to accept it or learn to leave it.
Yep.
And so many of us, though, are just like, I'm not going to do either of those. The thing about boundaries is the successful implementation of a boundary is unrelated to whether the relationship continues to exist or not.
Yeah.
You set the boundary, you maintain the boundary, and then whether or not the relationship survives is just a symptom of the choice you've made to set and hold the boundary. And if you've chosen the right boundary, you vocalized it and you've held it in the right way, then whether that person's still in your life or not, it'll work itself out, and you'll know that it's the right choice. Yeah. So, okay. So that's where we are with chapters 14 and 15. I felt like most of what she had to say in here was pretty good. The only thing that it did seem to, she focused a little bit more on doing things like backing off because of how it affects the other person, where I tend to say, do the backing off because it's good for you. And whether that affects them, changes them or not, it's the right thing for you to do for yourself. Offer the apology, back off, and then go ahead and celebrate the little victories. And that's the right thing to do, whether they ever change or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And just adopt this pattern of behavior and then decide, whether this is, assuming you're doing those things and it never changes, are you still okay with the relationship? If the answer is no, then, after at least the 6 months that she recommends of backing off, then you can decide whether you should stick around or not.
Good point.
And I mean, depending on how dangerous or disruptive the behavior is, maybe you don't give it 6 months. I mean, if it's something that is really harming your mental or physical health, then it's either, stop this right now. If this ever happens again, I'm out of here, and then deliver on that promise. Right. But if it's something that you think you can live with, give some time to see the change. Because again, hey, I'm going to back off. Like, okay, I mean, even if a really honest person says that, who's been nagging you for a while, it's not going to come natural for you to believe that they're actually going to back off. It's like, I believe you want to back off. I believe that you think it's a good idea, but just like you want to see the change in me, like I need to see the change in you.
Yeah. I think the key here would be to verbalize the apology, not the backing off, right? I think
the commitment to back off should be part of the apology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to say, hey,
as long as they also let
all the nagging I've been doing is wrong, and I'm not going to do that anymore.
That's
something
okay.
like
Okay,
that.
that's different versus my concern was
you're going to sit back and stare at you to see if you change. To come across that
or come across that you're not going to support them anymore. Backing off could also mean, hey, and that's not the case here. You're still there to support them in whatever way you're comfortable with, obviously, but in a way that is not going to be you forcing that support on them. It's them saying, hey, I'm providing the space here.
Right.
If you need support.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. You don't want to make it sound like I'm washing my hands.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Sorry for not realizing this was a fruitful task. So now I am done with you. You don't want it to come across that way. I agree. All right. So let's stop there. And next time we will come back with chapters 16 and 17.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for listening all the way through this episode of the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If today's conversation on change and influence resonated with you, share this episode with a friend who might need it. And remember, you can always find our full library of episodes, audio and video, at mindfullymasculine.com. It's the place to keep up with everything we decide to share. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.